All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive.
Hi, everyone.
So today we're diving into a really kind of fascinating, but also a little bit unnerving topic.
Yeah.
We're talking about Pakistan.
Okay.
And specifically a new amendment to their Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act. Most people just call it Peca.
Yeah.
And this has caused a lot of concern.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And we're going to be looking specifically at a pretty powerful editorial that was published in Dawn.
Right.
Dawn is a leading Pakistani newspaper.
Okay.
And this was published really recently, January 24th, just last week.
Wow, very current.
And they are calling this amendment a digital minefield.
Oh!
So we need to unpack that. What does that mean? What's going on in Pakistan? And we're going to figure out why this matters.
Okay.
Not just for people in Pakistan, but for, I think, anyone who cares about what they can say and do online.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, digital rights are becoming more and more important as our lives move more and more online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So maybe you should just start with the basics. Can you give us just a quick rundown of like, what is Peca? Like, when did this even come into being?
Yeah, so Peca, the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, was enacted in 2016. And initially, it was intended to tackle cybercrime, bolster online security. Sounds good so far.
Yeah.
But right from the start, there were all these criticisms about how broad it was and like the potential for misuse. And the concern was that it could be used to silence people.
Okay.
People who disagree.
Dissent. Yeah.
Rather than actually protect citizens.
Instead of protecting people, it's used to silence them.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
So that was the worry from the beginning.
Yeah. And that seems to be like a theme.
Right.
In this Dawn editorial that we're looking at, they're really zeroing in on like these issues with the law.
Right.
Especially in light of this new amendment.
Right.
That happened in 2025. So what's changing? Like, what's actually different now with this amendment, and why is everybody so worried?
Okay. Well, this amendment makes some pretty significant changes. For example, it introduces jail time for spreading disinformation.
Wow.
It replaces the cybercrime wing with a whole new investigative agency.
Okay.
And it's setting up a new authority. And this authority has the power to completely block social media platforms.
Whoa.
So you can see why people are concerned.
Yeah.
It's this combination of like more power, but vague definitions of what they're going after.
Yeah.
That's really got people worried.
Okay. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. You mentioned disinformation.
Right.
Which, I mean, that seems like something that governments should be addressing.
Yeah, of course.
Like, what's the issue here? Why are people so worried about that?
Well, the problem is that there's no clarity on what disinformation actually is.
Okay.
So, like, who gets to decide what's true or false?
Right.
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And the worry is that, like, because it's not clear, it could be exploited.
The government could say, like, oh, well, you're spreading disinformation.
Right.
So you're in trouble now.
Just because they don't like what you're saying.
Exactly.
Oh.
And so essentially, anybody who criticizes the government or says something they don't like could potentially be committing a crime.
Wow. Okay. And the Dawn editorial that we're looking at, they actually call this a blunt tool.
Yeah.
What do they mean by that?
Well, they're saying that this amendment is like way too broad.
Yeah.
It's not precise.
Okay.
It's going to have all these unintended consequences and stifle free speech, basically.
Do they offer any other suggestion? Like, what do they think should be done instead?
Well, they say that Pakistan should like really address the root causes of disinformation.
Okay.
So that would be things like, promoting media literacy, helping people learn how to think critically.
Yeah.
And they argue that like those are the long-term solutions, not just trying to silence people.
Right. They're saying educate, don't censor.
Got it. Okay. So there's also this concern in the editorial about the new investigative agency that's replacing the cybercrime wing.
Yes.
What are like the specific issues there?
The big worry is that this new agency might not be any more transparent or accountable than the one it's replacing.
Wow.
So without like clear checks and balances in place, it could easily just be used to, crack down on free expression more.
Under the guise of fighting cybercrime.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. And then there's the power to block entire social media platforms.
Right.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Why is the editorial so concerned about this?
Well, exactly. It creates this chilling effect, you
Yeah.
know, where people are just like, well, if I say the wrong thing, then they'll just take away the whole platform.
Right.
And then how do we communicate? How do we share ideas?
Yeah. So it really does seem like the Dawn editorial is painting a pretty bleak picture of what this amendment could mean for Pakistan.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, why should anyone listening to this, maybe sitting thousands of miles away from Pakistan, care about any of this? Like, why does this matter to them?
That's a great question. And it's easy to think of this as like, oh, it's just Pakistan, you know,
Right.
but it's actually part of this much bigger trend that we're seeing all around the world. Governments are trying to control online spaces more and more.
Yeah.
And if we don't push back against that, no matter where it happens, you know,
Right.
then we all lose. We risk creating this world where the internet, which was once this amazing space for free expression, just becomes another tool for censorship.
Right. Another tool for control.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a scary thought.
It is.
So I guess as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways that you want our listener to kind of walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just to remember that digital freedom is fragile. You know, we can't just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And we need to be vigilant. We need to defend it.
Absolutely.
Not just for ourselves, but for everyone, everywhere.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening for me. And it really makes me wonder, like, what can we as individuals do
Right.
to protect our digital rights
Yeah.
and make sure that the internet stays a space for free expression? It's a question I think we all need to be asking ourselves and having conversations about. So thank you so much for coming on the show and shedding some light on this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an important conversation to have.
It really is. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.